Good morning, and welcome to All People's Church, Unitarian Universalist. My name is Lori McKitka, and I will be your co-celebrant this morning. In the pulpit is Kendra Weddle. I have a hard time with your name. A scholar in residence at North Haven Church in Dallas. Kendra's expertise includes spirituality, feminism and religion, biblical and/or theological reflections, intersections of Christianity and culture, and interfaith trends. She has taught in the religion departments at TCU, Texas Wesleyan, and George Fox University. She is author of several books, including If Eve Only Knew, and her most recent Healing Streams, inclusive songs, prayers, and readings for all ages, published with co-author Jan Aldridge Clanton in 2024. That is an impressive resume. If you're a visitor today and haven't signed in, please do so. There's a visitor's table by the front door. Signing in will give us the opportunity to acknowledge your visit and place your name on our mailing list to receive weekly emails and our monthly newsletter. Before we continue with our service, please note these reminders and announcements. The Youth RE will be hosting bingo in Coleman Hall after the service. Each card is $5, payable by cash or card to support the RE fund. And also I have one from David Bindi. The fundraising concert this Thursday at 7:00 p.m. here at All People's Church is raising money for NTTN, North Texas Transportation Network, to help trans minors that have to seek care outside of Texas. Tickets are $5. If you cannot drive at night, you can still support the cause. David Bindi is collecting monies after service. The goal is to raise $2,000 from our church to add to the $10,000 already raised. And Transportation Network is even more important right now. And I've heard from people in the choir, they've been practicing. It's going to be a great concert. And now please settle comfortably for our musical prelude. Yes. No, Joel has an announcement.
Okay, the crafters group, knitting and crochet group, and I work on the grounds. And evidently somebody during the week, like must have been Wednesday or Thursday, was back there, and they had some bags of like craft stuff, and they'd thrown the stuff away. They'd thrown a bunch of stuff away in the craft group. In some kind of bag in that trash back there on the porch. Well, as I was going through the trash, I found this. It's somebody's bundle of keys. So if anybody's missing a bundle of keys with a key fob that's got a humble gas. So this is somebody's key ring, and if you hear of anybody's missing key ring, this is going to be on the bookshelf or the pamphlet shelf by the office. Thank you.
And I do have an announcement. I thought it was a little note to myself, but it's actually an announcement. Please provide any announcements for the worship service in writing by 10:45. And now please settle comfortably for our musical prelude.
Thank you, Misha. That was beautiful as always. Hear these opening words from a piece called A Blessing Called Sanctuary from Jan Richardson. You hardly knew how hungry you were to be gathered in, to receive the welcome that invited you to enter entirely. Nothing of you found strange or foreign, nothing of your life that you were asked to leave behind or to carry in silence or in shame. You began to breathe again. You learned to sing. But the deal with this blessing is that it will not leave you alone. It will ask you to leave and become the sanctuary that you have found. Amen.
We now invite you to rise in body or spirit for the chalice lighting, opening hymn, and spoken affirmation. Our chalice lighting words this morning are from Chad Snyder. To belong is to be longing for a space to be held and that will hold, friend, stranger, neighbor, other, for silences broken by songs of the silenced, for time that does not stretch but encircles. To belong is to be longing for wholeness of the beloved of all who belong and are longing. Please join us now in singing our opening hymn, number 113, Where is Our Holy Church? And we're doing a little change in the hymn. Misha's going to play it the entire thing through for one verse, and then we'll sing when he starts it again. Please join us in our affirmation. The words are found in the order of service and on the screen. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. You can are now invited to come forward for our time for all ages here at the front of the chancel.
Good morning. Good morning. Hi. Oh, I'm so glad. How are you today?
Good.
Are you good?
No.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I plugged my phone.
Oh, I'm so glad that you did. That's wonderful. Hello. It's good to see all of you here today. So I brought a story I wanted to share with you, but we're only going to read part of the story, so you may have to see if you can finish the story on your own. Maybe you can pick up the book at the library, okay? So I want to read to you part of this book called The Dog Who Followed the Moon. Can you imagine that? The dog following the moon? Did you see? So this is the first part of that story. And I'll show you the picture. So winter had come to the mountain. So a bit like what we're going to have this week, I think. The winter's going to come. The great river ran deep and clear, and of all the trees, only the pines kept their dark, waxy needles. You see, here's the pine tree. Yeah? So it's really cold there, just like it's going to be here. And alone for the first time in her life, Amaya wandered into the silent landscape in search of her parents. Do you see Amaya? Do you see her? Can you see Amaya? Yeah. Do you see? Here's Amaya. Here's the dog. Her name is Amaya. Yeah. And for 2 days she traveled, and her strength was waning with every step until one cloudless night, she thought she heard a sound coming from the forest, something that she recognized. You see her here? Yeah. So keeping low, Amaya approached until she could see the source of that sound. And relief flooded through her as she saw it was just as she hoped. More dogs. But they were larger than her mother and father, and with different patterns on their fur. They looked different. She felt a wave of excitement and headed through the trees toward them. You see, here she is. She's getting ready to go find them. And as she approached, the nearest wolf snatched its head around, yellow eyes bright in the darkness. It wasn't a dog, it was a wolf. And Amaya yelped and tried to run, but another one cut her off. So Amaya has run into a bunch of wolves. And there was another, and there was another, and she was surrounded by all these scary eyes. And there was no way out. And so she screwed up her eyes and hid her paws and waited for what was to come. Barks and snarls echoed through the cold morning. You see, Amaya, she has her paws over her eyes. She's scared, but she was still alive. So she dared to peek with one eye, only to see that a single wolf, bigger and older than the others, stood over her. And although badly wounded, it seemed to be daring the others to try something, but they just kept walking a slow circle. Then one attacked. And the big wolf grabbed Amaya in its teeth and ran. And trees flew past them in the darkness, and she could hear the pack behind them. But gradually, their sound faded, and all she heard was the wolf's panting. You know what happened? The wolf slowed to a stop. Here's the wolf. Slowed to a stop and placed Amaya on the ground. She looked at the creature. It was wounded from the fight, and it was panting, and its face was laced with scars. "Are you all right?" asked the wolf. Amaya nodded slowly. "You saved me." "We need to find shelter," the wolf said. "Come with me." Isn't that such a good story? That someone so different from Amaya saved her and got her to safety. Yeah, just like shining a light in her face. She took her to safety. I hope you will think about maybe reading the rest of the story, and then we can see what happens. Thanks for joining me this morning. I think we will sing the children out.
Unitarian Universalism is a grand vision of a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy. That vision is embodied in congregations of all sizes. No matter its size, every congregation depends on each of its members. Each one of you, by your commitment of time, energy, and resources, helps make that grand vision real. It is our custom to share the undesignated cash offerings that are collected each week. We do this on a quarterly basis for a nonprofit charitable organization. Our Share the Plate recipient for the first quarter of 2025 is Tarrant County Reading Partners. If you prefer, donations can be made using the QR code that is on the back of your order of service. The gifts of the congregation will be most gratefully received. Will the ushers please come forward? Thank you, Misha. It's always gorgeous. Please rise as you are willing and able for our next hymn, number 323, Break Not the Circle. And again,
There is a story from the Mishnah, a rabbinic teaching, buried in a 3rd century Jewish legal compendium. There was an ancient pilgrimage ritual when hundreds of thousands of people ascended to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, the focal point of Jewish religious and political life in the ancient world. The crowd entered the courtyard in a mass of humanity, turning to the right and circling counterclockwise around the enormous complex, exiting close to where they had entered. But someone suffering, the text tells us, the grieving, the lonely, the sick, that person walked through the same entrance and circled in the opposite direction. Just as we do when we're hurting, every step against the current. And every person who passed the brokenhearted would stop and ask, "What happened to you?" "I lost my mother. I've had a terrible diagnosis. I don't feel like I fit anywhere. I'm just so lonely." And those who walked from right to left, each one of them, would look in the eyes of the ill or the bereft, the bereaved, and say, "May God comfort you." They would say, one by one, "May you be wrapped in the embrace of this community. May you know you belong here." Amen.
At this time in our service, we pause to honor and to give time and attention to those things most important to us. We gather here for healing and peace in our hearts and to honor our time together with the shared news and stories from the congregation. Each week there is a journal outside the sanctuary where you can write a message of memory or hope before the service. And I don't have the journal, so I don't know if there are any messages. It looks like Lori's going to get it. We honor these messages by lighting 3 candles here next to our chalice. Okay, there are no messages, but I know that people have things that are in their hearts. Also, at any time during our service, you are welcome to come forward and light a candle at our meditation center here at the side of the chancel. So, we are asked to remember, just think of what other people might be suffering or joyful about at this time. The human race, meditation words are from Richard Gilbert. The human race is a vast rainbow bursting into view of white and black, red and yellow and brown. Yet for all, blood is red, the sky is blue, the earth brown, the night dark. In size and shape, we are a varied pattern of tall and short, slim and stout, elegant and plain. Yet for all there are fingers to touch, hearts to break, eyes to cry, ears to hear, mouths to speak. In tongue we are a tower of Babel, a great jumble of words, a great jumble of voices grasping for words, groping for ways to say love, peace, pity, and hope. Faiths compete, claiming the one way. Saviors abound, pointing to salvation. Not all can be right, not one. We are united only by our urge to search. Boundaries divide us, lines drawn to mark our diversity, maps charted to separate the human race from itself. Yet a mother's grief, a father's love, a child's happy cry, a musician's sound, an artist's stroke, batter the boundaries and shatter the walls. strength and weakness, arrogance and humility, confidence and fear live together in each one, reminding us that we share a common humanity. We are all more human than otherwise.
It was 2003, and I thought I had arrived. A tenure track position at a university that happened to have Quaker roots. And excited and maybe naive, I settled into my office that mid-July, eagerly anticipating the opportunity to teach and to create new collegial bonds. While my status as one of the new faculty members ensured that many introduced themselves and offered genuine welcome, the reality of being the new female hire in the religion department also meant that I was a bit of a spectacle. Who was this woman willing to throw in her lot with that male bastion of 10? My academic honeymoon ended before it began as I learned firsthand the politics of change. In establishing an inclusive language requirement for my classes, I had set myself apart, a target, really, for students, parents, and administrators to see me as the problem. Before long, I was labeled by students, and perhaps by some faculty and staff, as the campus feminazi. An issue in the campus newspaper featured me in a quarter-page-sized cartoon depicting me with a Hitler-esque mustache in front of seated students wearing prison garb. I was speaking from the lectern, and I was presented by this anonymous cartoonist as claiming Jesus was a woman. For the 6 years that I was at this university, I seldom felt comfortable in my own skin. Most days I was reminded over and over that I was the other, the one that didn't fit. I have also known privilege. I'm a cisgender, middle-class Caucasian. I have had access to educational opportunities that most do not have. I have lived in safe places. I have never wondered where or when I would get my next meal. So I think in a way you could say that I have walked both ways around the Temple Mount. But the majority of my life, I have not been the one turning left and moving against the tide. But our narrative today invites us to consider this ancient practice of inclusion, one that doesn't exist only in our minds as a theoretical or cognitive project. No, this is one explanation of a bodily experience, one that immediately transports us out of our minds and into our bodies, out of our aloneness and into the realities of interaction and potentially connection. The ancient Jewish pilgrimage ritual where hundreds of thousands of people ascended to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem featured this gate in the courtyard where the mass of humanity divided according to their experience. The ones who turned right to make their way around the temple were the ones whose lives were going smoothly. Those grieving or ill or bereft, they turned the opposite direction, a way that would eventually bring them face to face with the crowd. I imagine the masses today walking in a herd as they turn right, easy to simply go along with presumably everyone else. In lockstep, they might ask one another, "How are your children doing? Are they still planning to study education at TCU? Where are you traveling this year? I finally carved out time to go to Big Bend for a few days. Would you like to go for coffee when we're done here?" But I can also imagine how it happens that all of a sudden, as a group turns around the corner, there is right in front of them someone walking toward them, someone who had turned left and is now visible to the crowd. What would the body language of this solitary sojourner convey about their situation? Maybe their head is down, eyes able to see their shoes but not much else. Maybe their shoulders are shoulders are folded inward, as if safety resides only inside. Are they moving by shuffling their feet, like the anguish of putting one foot in front of another is almost more than they can bear? What does it take for our eyes to make that initial connection? We've all experienced this. We know when we've been seen and when someone is avoiding making eye contact with us. A few weeks ago, Bishop Marianne Booty of the Washington National Cathedral delivered a homily during the prayer service for the newly inaugurated president. And in it, she spoke about 4 shared values that must be present in order for unity to be possible. These included the commitment to the dignity of all people, to honesty and truthfulness, to having humility, and to leading with compassion. As I reflected on these ideals in light of the image of people making their pilgrimage around the temple, I was struck by the wisdom of ritual as a way to move us in a particular direction, and of the potential for deep relationship when compassion is the center. Today, we are not walking around a religious building, but we are here. We have moved our bodies so that we are gathered together here in this space, seeking something. What is it we hope to experience here? To learn? To know? Maybe to get us through another week? Surely part of why we come week after week is that we need each other. We need to know that we are seen, that others know us enough, well enough to ask, how are you? Really? Is there something you need? Is there a way I can be more present to you? When we are here, we bring all of who we are, our disappointments as well as our successes, our discouragement as well as our hope, our pain as well as our pleasure. And in our gathering, we open ourselves to the potential of deeper connection with each other and with the divine breather who breathes in and through us. The challenge for us, I think, is to ensure that the potential that exists in our coming together is realized. So how can we act on this possibility? What are we called to do so that deep seeing and connection are nourished when we come together in community? Bishop Booty spoke of the necessity of recognizing the dignity of all persons as foundational for relationship. And this means that each person has intrinsic value regardless of background, circumstances, abilities, etc. And respect and consideration should be unwavering. Another way of saying this is that every person, by virtue of their humanity, should be given all that is needed for them to flourish. But this requires us to work together. So what might this value actually look like so that it is more concrete and not so much just a thought experiment? In the Soul Matters material, there was a terrific experiment. And it's something like this. Find someone in your life, a family member, a friend, and strike up the goal of going deeper together. Explore your differences, not what you have in common. So each of you might pick a movie or maybe a piece of music or a cartoon or some other similar item and experience together. Be willing to share why this movie or this music moves you. What do the lyrics mean to you? And then use that sharing to build a bridge that takes you each deeper. In her homily, Bishop Booty spoke of the necessity of compassion. And a goal of inclusion brings front and center the need for compassion, because inclusion means to practice including or integrating all peoples and groups, especially those who are disadvantaged or have suffered discrimination or are living with specific and ongoing challenges. Inclusion purposely brings difference to the table and asks us to make room. Not to cover over or marginally include, but to create safe space. The religion scholar Karen Armstrong for years has explained that the principle of compassion lies at the heart of all religious, ethical, and spiritual traditions. calling us to always treat others as we wish to be treated ourselves. And compassion impels us to work tirelessly to alleviate the suffering of others, to dethrone ourselves from the center of our world and put another there, and to honor the sanctity of every single human, treating everybody without exception with justice, with equity and respect. Armstrong elaborates that compassion requires us both in public and private life to refrain from consistently and empathetically, to refrain from inflicting pain consistently and empathetically, to avoid acting or speaking violently out of spite or self-interest, to impoverish, exploit, or deny basic rights to others. And compassion can only grow out of a recognition of our deep interdependence. And so I was struck when I was reading Valerie Carr, a scholar from the Sikh, S-I-K-H tradition, who talks about compassion in her book titled See No Stranger. And she offers a simple practice that we can do every day. As she moves throughout her day, sees faces on the street or in the subway or on the screen, she says in her mind, sister, brother, sibling, aunt, uncle. This is a retraining of her mind, helping her to see more and more kinds of people as part of her, rather than not, rather than other. It's a practice that we can try not only with people, but with animals and with all of the earth. We can reorient ourselves to the world by saying in our minds, you are a part of me that I just don't know yet. And you all know this. We become what we practice. So it is possible to train our eyes to see others differently, to never see them as stranger, but always as part of ourselves. Friends, we are living in a very, very difficult moment in time. And I can see it on your faces, and I know it's on mine too, that we feel it every day. Day after day, the dread of what might happen. More deportations and family separations, more checks and balances shredded, more oppressive measures enacted at specific groups, especially those in marginal spaces. And it's overwhelming, and it's exhausting, and it's frightening. And we are going to need to be advocates and agitators, resistors, and those standing in the gaps for others, more than we can probably imagine. More of us is going to be required than we have known in many, many years. And in order for us to be effective and to not burn ourselves out, we are going to have to start with our communities. Amy Butler, the founder of Invested Faith, writes in her new book, Beautiful and Terrible Things, that the invitation to become who we're meant to be happens at the intersection of human pain and divine hope, and always in the context of relationship. There is a timeless wisdom in intentionally looking around us as we walk the sacred circle of life. Today, You walk from left to right. Tomorrow it will be me. And we will need each other more than we know. I hold you today, knowing that eventually you will hold me. Being an inclusive body requires us to respect the full dignity of every person and to make every step guided with compassion. Every gesture on this path can be a combination of love and humility, vulnerability, and sacred responsibility. We have to walk this sacred circle together, all of us. Amen. Let's now sing together our closing hymn, which is number 115, and Misha will play it through once before we sing together. So stand now in body and or spirit, and let's sing together 115.
Our closing words are from Teresa Youngblood. May you be invited to the party. May you be asked to dance. May you be amazed to learn that your own precious heart already knows and leaps to the song. And in this moment, whirling in the expansive affirmation of all creation, an embodiment of the divine's boundless love, may you turn and face the door, arms outstretched to sing in wide welcome the ever-changing song of togetherness to those who have yet to discover that they too belong here.
Friends, hear this benediction. We have experienced the sacred circle here. As we leave from this place, let's continue to expand the circle out there. I invite you to stay for coffee and conversation. Amen.